see wave. They're kind of not quite there. So we've got this kind of balancing act between power stations potentially having to be retired and new power stations coming into the network. And what you've got is if you imagine that peak day scenario, is you've got less and less cover or insurance between the peak day and spare capacity in the system. So gradually that's going to come down to kind of that. And you may find that situation of power cuts to be hard. What Cruachan does is it balances out what I would call daily swings. So if you've got something, let's say a nuclear power station, it always wants to work full on all the time. But it's back to this when are the demands on the grid. The demands on the grid are, say, at tea time, but there's not that much demand on the grid at 3 o'clock in the morning. So what they do at 3 o'clock in the morning is they send the power from the nuclear power station to pump water up into Cruachan, so as it keeps the nuclear power station running. And then in that maximum power situation, when you're turning your kettle on after EastEnders, they can release water into the grid to create extra power on top of what the nuclear power station is creating. So that's more of a kind of, almost a kind of daily balancing.
Do you need more of that?
Well, yes, to an extent. But yeah, yes, you're right. The difficulty is in Scotland, you know, these kind of power, these pump storage systems, you know, are costly to build, and to an extent, because you're pumping water up and then drawing it back down again, there's losses and inefficiencies there. The key thing with wind, these big wind farms, is what they're trying to work out is how they can capture all that wind that sometimes, when it's too windy, we're starting to enter into a situation now where on very windy days, when there's low demand in networks, in actual fact, wind farm operators have been phoned up and asked to turn off their wind farm because in actual fact they're producing so much power that they can't actually take it away into the grid. And that's potentially, as more and more wind farms get put up, could become more of an issue, which is why a lot of the networks are looking to be. That's one of the main reasons why.
Use that then to pump up the water to Cruachan.
Yep, if you imagine there's a wind farm here, okay, and Cruachan's over in the corner here, and you've got a wire connecting you from there to there, but that wire can't take the capacity of power to go to Cruachan to pump the water up. So it almost becomes a local thing. There is a wire from there to there. It's not a big enough wire to take the power from that wind farm, because what they've assumed, for example, is that in the middle is a town, but if the town's not using enough power, then you know, there's not enough spare capacity in the wire, so to speak. So without getting out to say overcomplicated, if we assume that there is a chance, for example, on the island that potentially the power cuts, one of the things you can do, as somebody mentioned, is get your own little generator, which is to tide you over and run fridge freezers, limited lighting, pump and heater or something like this. And to do that, what I've done in my own house is you get a little panel that effectively decouples you from the grid. So there's a switch, a manual switch. You're switched off from the grid, so your whole house is sitting disconnected from the grid. And what you can do then is literally, you know, when you've got a caravan, you go on a caravan site, and you plug into the socket, you can literally take your little generator, plug that in there, and then run from the generator your house as an island off a generator. Now that's the legal way to do it. That's the legal way to do it. Excellent. If you run your generator, you run a generator straight into your house circuit while you're still connected to the mains, you know, there are issues, especially if it's some poor man's up a pole trying to fix something and he's thinking that he's going to de-energise something.
What do they do in Finland for power cuts? If these are used there. But you'll get back to me.
All the conversations being here round about people are in houses permanently on this island. Like myself, I probably spend maybe 3 months a year in total on the island. How does the payback tariff operate a system like that? Yeah, I'm just like the proverbial bad penny. As far as I'm aware, it's on to put that unit will produce.
know how much you use of it.
Yeah, so it's much better.
So we can go into the
I think it's fortunate if it is up.
If you say to somebody else, it spends as much as
So I could go down and sit in your house for... Even more.
The answer is, I don't think, I mean, there's always going to be these wee anomalies, Ian, and they're not going to come down and make a rule up that's going to kibosh you. I think, like Alan's mentioned, I think they're purely, what they're looking on is that ultimately these units are going to be the main source of heat in your house, which is why they've made it that you've got to, it's going to be linked into your radiator and hot water system. Because what they're looking for the incentive to do is for you to stop using oil or coal. So that's why the incentive is there. And you'll be asked to sign on receipt of the RHI payments, you'll be asked to sign a paperwork that effectively says, I'm not going to be, burning oil or coal or whatever. This is being funded to replace that.
one of the things, when these go through MCS accreditation, they know exactly what they are able to produce. So they will work up on that basis. If you say you get in one of these, they'll get to work through their paperwork, have a look, that's get produced next amount of kilowatt hours. Doesn't matter if you switch it on.
Aye.
As long as you think that the radiators, if you're away from your house for a year, 2 years, you still get your money.
Again, you're saying this goes on for a period of what, 20 years? 15 years?
15 years.
I mean, I'm reaching the end of my natural, so to speak. I mean, here.
Do you have any siblings?
Only 50
Yes.
years to go.
Yes.
And
Does it carry on to them?
in essence, it's set up so that the payment, well, it's an interesting one actually. The payment for a renewable heat incentive can be also be what's called an assigned payment. Potentially, say somebody else decides to install it for you. This is purely speculation. Say take for example a housing association, right, with say 10 flats or something like that in a block, and they've got a little sort of central boiler plant that's currently running on say oil. You've got a scenario whereby an organisation could come along and replace that boiler plant for the housing association, so the housing association don't have to put their own, expend their own money, and the organisation that funds it would then be in the position where they could then receive the renewable heat incentive payment. And the housing association would benefit hopefully because A, they've got new plant equipment, and B, it's going to be a lower running cost than say the oil or coal plant or whatever they were doing before. So the payment that has been made can be also be an assigned payment, but I'm pointing out a commercial situation.
Yeah.
You take a domestic situation, say in the instance where you decide to sell your house, because that might happen. Say you're 4 or 5 years into the thing, you've had the benefit of the equipment for 4 or 5 years. You've had 4 or 5 years of payments, but then you come to sell your house. I think it's going to be you're going to have a pretty good opportunity to recover your costs, additional costs you've not got back yet by explaining to anyone that comes to see your house, well, by the way, here's a renewable heating system that's in, and by the way, for the next 8 years, you're going to receive X amount of £1,000 per year. I think that's going to be a pretty powerful thing to help you sell your house, but also, increase.
All I'm saying is it's transferable to my
Yes,
daughter.
it is.
The renewable heat incentive gets paid to the person who owns the product.
Yeah. So if you own the product,
And then back to your power cuts, obviously the head is sitting in your living room, so you try to still get. If it's in an outhouse, you get a power cut, you're still left with your coal fire. Or if you want to run power, it's in a fire.
They come in different colours.
yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking. If you want to sell that, I think I've some people that are really house proud and they've got their specially designed kitchens. They're going to want one, don't they?
Yes. All these panels are interchangeable. Alan's got the brochure there, some other brochures that show you different